What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 12 deadline. We've got some really important team news to go through first of all. Then I'm going to look at benching headaches, answer a bunch of your questions, and quickly run you through my team as well. So let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the Liverpool press conference on its own because there was quite a lot of information contained. And obviously, Liverpool are about to go into a really good fixture run. So it's kind of key to get it right if you're looking to buy some of their players. On Alisson, Slot said he trained last week and this week. So he will be able to play tomorrow if things work out well today again. So presumably Alisson's going to be in the team for Forest at home and then will continue there as long as he doesn't pick up another injury. So if you've got Mamadashvili, he's not going to be an option moving forward. That will obviously improve the Liverpool defence as well. Like Mamadashvili is a good backup, but Alisson is obviously one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So that will help things if you're looking to buy Van Dijk. But Conor Bradley is out. Slot said he's not going to be in the next 22 days, like not going to make an appearance unless something like a miracle happens. Frimpong's also not available, so presumably that's going to mean Szoboszlai at right back. I'll come on to that in a second. Either way, they don't have an out-and-out right back to play at the moment. In fact, this is what Slot said on the right back situation. Szoboszlai is doing well in every position. He's played really well as a fullback and played really well as a midfielder. Curtis Jones played there last season. Joe Gomez can play there, but Joe Gomez has played, I think if I'm correct, 2 times 90 minutes throughout the whole 2025 year. Maybe one or two of them, and he was talking about players in general, have to play in positions they usually don't do. So it is going to be a bit of a makeshift back four. Presumably Robertson will stay. He seems to have kind of slightly overtaken Kerkez in the last couple of games. Konate, Van Dijk, and then probably Szoboszlai. So you could argue, because of the right back situation, that makes Van Dijk slightly worse, even though Alisson is back. I think ultimately, if you've got doubts about Van Dijk, it's perfectly okay to go and buy Munoz or Timber or Saliba or whoever you want, someone cheaper, and then use that money in midfield or your forward line. Whatever it is, Van Dijk is not essential. But I don't think Conor Bradley missing for 3 weeks is going to make a huge difference to what Liverpool are capable of clean sheet-wise over the next 8 game weeks, because the fixtures are just that good. And I would say around Van Dijk specifically, if you haven't got free hit left or you're not free hitting in 13, I think there's even more reason to buy him, because Forest at home, West Ham away, Sunderland at home, next 3 is pretty good. If you're free hitting in 13, then maybe you look at an Arsenal defender instead because you dodged the Chelsea away game. Ultimately, Alisson back, Bradley is out. I don't know, maybe that's almost neutral in terms of what it means for Van Dijk. One good thing, one bad thing. I don't know, but a lot of people ask me about Van Dijk. That's why I wanted to mention it. By the way, on Szoboszlai, I would probably just ignore him. Like, he's on 4 yellow cards anyway, which is not like a massive problem because people do have good bench depth. They've got defenders who can go and get you defcons even in more difficult games. So it's not awful. But if he's on 4 yellow cards and potentially now going to play some games at right back, I just feel like a bit whatever about him. There's got to be better options out there. The other key bit of information for Liverpool, Wirtz is out for the Forest game. Slot said he should be able to play after Forest. So it probably does just mean 1 or 2 games maximum that he's going to miss. Now, when people saw that Wirtz news, I had lots of questions about Gakpo. Is he now an option with Wirtz out? In the short term, probably. I find it hard to believe that Gakpo won't start left wing with Wirtz not there. But even in that case where Wirtz misses out, the thought crossed my mind, what if at some point, even if it's not from the start, maybe it's with an early substitution, what if he plays Ekitike off the left, Isak through the middle and Salah on the right? I'm pretty sure we've already seen that happen in Europe, where Gakpo got subbed before Ekitike and Isak came on, and then Ekitike actually had to go off with cramp. But we've already seen a situation where Slot has had Salah, Isak, Ekitike on the pitch, and no Gakpo. So even with Wirtz out, it's not 100% certain that Gakpo will start, although I think he will. I'd be very, very surprised if he doesn't start against Forest. And if Wirtz is still a doubt for West Ham, Gakpo presumably will start again. It's just long-term, how long will that continue? And I know why people want to take the punt, because Gakpo's numbers are great, the fixtures are good. I don't hate it with Wirtz out, but I still wouldn't sit here and 100% guarantee that he's going to start every game. And it doesn't sound like Wirtz is going to be out that long either. So just keep that in mind. But we do have the top-up of 5 free transfers happening in Game Week 16. If you want to take a punt on Gakpo now and then deal with it later or maybe move on to someone else, that's perfectly fine. And obviously there is a scenario where the guy just keeps playing. But they have got a lot of fixtures coming up and Champions League as well. So I'm still not completely certain about Gakpo. I would have needed Wirtz to be ruled out for a lot longer, I think. So I probably won't go there. But obviously it does open up a little bit now. So that's the key stuff. Alisson back. Bradley out for 3 weeks. Wirtz is out for Forest, but should be able to play after that. Who's going to play right back? I'm not sure, but Szoboszlai's done it so much already this season. I wouldn't be completely surprised to see him move back there. So for Arsenal, Arteta basically confirmed what we already knew, and that is that Gabriel is going to be out for weeks. He did also say he needs another scan to get a clearer timeline about exactly how long he'll be out for, but I wouldn't expect to see him before game week 16-17 at the absolute earliest, based on what Ornstein tweeted, which was that he could be out for 1 to 2 months. So I think for most people, Gabriel is just quite an easy sell. If you've got a really good squad where you can bench him this week, you're free hit 13, you want to reassess before 14, absolutely fine. But I'd be surprised if anyone's actually going to hold on to him longer than that. Calafiori hasn't trained. There is another training session tomorrow. If you've got him, I would hold him, I think. There's every chance he will just play, and he's a pretty nice long-term hold anyway. If you don't have him, I would go Timber or Saliba instead. I do worry a little bit more about Calafiori in terms of little knocks and stuff like that than I do with Saliba or Timber. And I don't think it's worth saving the money to go for him. So I don't think you can buy him this week. But if I had him, I'd probably keep him and just play him, especially if you've got a good bench. And then on the other 6 attackers that are out, so it's like Havertz, Gyökeres, Madueke, etc. He said we put a lot of energy in the international break with the medical staff to try to bring them back as quickly as possible. Tomorrow we have another training session to see. So we don't know if they're back. Presumably no one's holding on to these players apart from maybe Gyökeres. If you've got him, I'd probably sell him because there's no guarantee he'll play. And if he's out, does he definitely play Chelsea? If Havertz gets back soon, that hurts his minutes as well. I just think none of them are worth holding. So we had quite an interesting update about Semenyo in the Bournemouth press conference. This is what we know. Semenyo was already dealing with an ankle injury prior to the break. Iriola says he cannot say if he will play tomorrow or not. They will have to see today if he is fit enough to be involved against West Ham. Semenyo has not had to do too much management of his ankle issue. It appeared before the Villa game and into the break. It's not a muscle injury. Worth pointing out that if it happened before game week 11, that Aston Villa game, he went and played 90 minutes. So it can't be that bad unless he's aggravated it over the international break and now it feels worse. But we're not going to know that before the deadline. It will depend on how he is feeling on it at training later as to whether he plays. Iriola says he hopes he can feature. Now, I'm going to get a lot of questions between now and the deadline about what to do with Semenyo. My honest answer is at this point, I'm not 100% sure. He does feel like a player that will either start or just not be in the squad at all. Is there a chance of a cameo? Of course, right? There always is in this kind of situation, especially when Iriola says he hopes he can feature. Like it might be that Semenyo says it's not feeling great after training, but it might be okay or something like that. I don't know. And maybe they stick him on the bench and if they really need him, they call upon him. That is one of the possibilities that could happen. But I feel like it's a start or just not in the squad. And in that case, if you've got a good bench option, you can keep hold of him because West Ham at home is great fixture. Then it's Sunderland away, Everton home is not bad either. So I think for most people, they'll probably want to keep him. And so I'd probably lean that way. But also, and this is why I'm saying I'm not quite sure, we do have to get a bunch of transfers used by game week 15. We can be a bit more aggressive. Like if you've got the money to go Semenyo straight to Mbeumo or something like that, maybe you just do that and just don't get Semenyo back. Take on his ownership. Because if you've got Mbeumo, like if that's your option, Semenyo or sell him to Mbeumo, I mean Mbeumo's just as good over the next 3. And he's better, I would say, for the next 5. When you include game week 15 where Semenyo's got Chelsea at home, Mbeumo's got Wolves away, and then 16, Semenyo's away to Man United, Mbeumo's home to Bournemouth. So if you could do something like that, maybe Cunha as well, I'm going to talk about him a little bit later, maybe that's okay to do. But there's every chance he just plays against West Ham. Basically, my train of thought is, hopes he can feature is not necessarily super positive, but it's better than being completely ruled out. And the fact that he had this issue before the Villa game, then played 90 minutes, makes me think he'll just play again. The other issue with selling him is Iriola spoke about Kluivert, and he said he's got an adductor injury and will miss the West Ham game. So someone else has to be on penalties. Now, it could just be Evan Nielsen because Semenyo missed the last one, Or maybe Semenyo just gets to keep them in Kluivert's absence. So I think it's a really tricky one. I wouldn't force Semenyo out. If it's going to be for a -4 or something like that, I would definitely risk just starting him against West Ham and hoping for the best. If you're in a position like me where you've got 2 free transfers and you could deal with Semenyo right now, I think it's much tougher. Like, for me, if it was in Burma that I could afford pretty easily with the other move that I want to make, which I'll talk about later, I think I would do it. I think I would just sell Semenyo to Mbeumo. But because it's Cunha, I'm not quite so sure. And that's the problem for me. And then anyone else like Sarr or Szoboszlai or Enzo Fernandez, I'm just not that interested in buying right now for a Semenyo that could play against West Ham. So I think that's where I'm at. If you've got a transfer you can make that you're really happy with, like a player you're really happy to bring in, and you can afford it and it's a free transfer, I would probably just do it, especially if they're better for the long term. For anyone else, I would just probably hold him and hope for the best, because my prediction is he'll start. I can't guarantee it, and I may well sell him, but I think he will start. Like, if it's Gakpo you're looking at, I think I prefer to just risk Semenyo. Because at least you know, as long as he's back for 13, which seems likely, he'll just continue playing. With Gakpo, you haven't got that guarantee, especially if Wirtz is back. So I think that's kind of all I can say. I think he will play, but obviously I can't guarantee it. Whether you sell him is really going to depend on your squad situation and how many transfers you got from. I just wouldn't force him. I wouldn't force him out. I definitely wouldn't take a hit to do it. I think he'll play, but I think in some scenarios that's not enough. Like, especially if you're free hit 13. You sell to a Man United player, I think they're the ones I'd mostly be looking at. You free hit 13, and then you've got your Man United midfielder for West Ham at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home straight after. So that's kind of where I'm lying with it. I think if you can go Semenyo to a Man United midfielder you're happy with, could even be Bruno Fernandes if you've got lots of money in the bank, then do it. But everyone else, I think I would mostly lean towards holding him. But if you want to take on his ownership, if you've got transfers to burn, no harm in selling him. So let's go through some of the other team news. So for Chelsea, Cole Palmer is out until at least game week 14, not with that groin problem, but with a toe injury. Apparently he's injured his toe at home and he's going to miss the Burnley and Arsenal games. So he's not going to be back until at least game week 14. That's also a midweek fixture, so it may even be that game week 15 is when he was back. Either way, you don't have to worry about him for now. Enzo Fernandez and Pedro Neto are both fine. And by the way, if you've got Enzo, there's every reason just to keep him for the Burnley game, because you know Palmer's not available. Therefore, Enzo should be on penalty. So he's a good option. It's a good fixture. And if you are on free hit 13 and you get to game week 14 and Palmer's not back yet, Leeds away, it's not as good as Burnley away, but it's not awful. And Enzo could still be on penalty. So I think there's every reason to keep Enzo if you've got him. I wouldn't be looking to go out of your way to sell him. For Newcastle, Pope is fit and available. So if you've got him, there's no major rush to get rid of him. If you want to change your goalkeeper, that's fine. But for most people, that's not the priority with your transfers. Gordon and Livramento are close to featuring in game week 13. I think it's going to be a late test for Gordon to see whether he's available. If you've got him, I would probably just sell him. He hasn't been great anyway. There's other midfielders you can go for. I wouldn't, again, unless it's for a hit, where maybe then you could keep him, I would just look to offload him. He's not been great anyway, and I just don't see him as a good long-term hold at this point. The minutes are being managed already. Yes, he's on penalties, I get that, but the early subs are just a killer. So I think he's an easy one to sell. Visser is close to training with a group. I don't know when we're actually going to see him, but Voltemada's minutes should continue to be pretty good, and obviously Dan Burns suspended. The reason I note that, because a lot of people are saying that Newcastle are going to be weaker without Dan Burn. I'm not convinced they will be. Maybe from set pieces. But let's say Lewis Hall is fit enough to start a left back and you've got, I don't know, Joao and Botman centre back. I think that's fine. I don't think Dan Burn missing out is necessarily huge for Newcastle. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, but I don't think it makes Haaland a miles better captain just because Dan Burn's out, basically. Mitoma's still a doubt for game week 12, although surely at this point no one is holding on to him. It also means Minte's minutes are just going to continue to be really good because he can play right or left wing. And then for City, everyone is fit apart from Rodri and Kovacic. So just really quickly on West Ham, Potts is going to be assessed ahead of game week 12, so he is a bit of a doubt for anyone looking at going for him as a cheap midfielder for 4.4, but long term he should be fine. So if you're thinking about going for a spot like that on wildcard, it should be okay. Paquetá is also suspended for 1 week only. Obviously, he'll come straight back into the team after that. In bigger news, Man United, Šeško is going to be out for a few weeks, which we kind of knew was coming, but Amorim has now confirmed it. He said it's not that serious. He also went on to say, I think it's going to be the same time as they leave for AFCON. I don't want to say for sure. So basically he's saying, I think he'll be back when the other players leave for African Cup of Nations. Now, does that mean game week 17 that Šeško will be back, or game week 15? Because Amorim also said that Man United could lose in Mbeumo, Ahmad Mazraoui 2 weeks before AFCON starts. Now, it starts on the 21st of December, so if they're released 2 weeks before, that means they would miss game week 15 and 16. Now, for what it's worth, I find it very, very unlikely that will happen, but it isn't up to Man United. It's up to the respective nations as to when the players have to report for duty, essentially. Usually, in the past, having experienced FPL and AFCON before, the players are usually released quite late. The club and the country negotiate, and they usually leave quite close to the start of the tournament. But if they wanted to, they could make Mbeumo come 2 weeks before. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I personally wouldn't let that put me off buying Mbeumo. I'm pretty confident he will play 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then he'll go like most other players and miss game week 17. But maybe there's a negotiation happens and they compromise and say, okay, we don't want him gone for 15, but okay, take him in 16. Right? That could happen. So maybe it's fewer and fewer weeks now that these players will be available for. And that's why I'm not quite sure when Šeško is going to be out. Is it going to be until game week 17? Or does Amorim think there's a genuine chance these players could be missing from 15 and that's when Šeško is going to be back? Either way, it probably makes Cunha a lot better now. Because in Šeško's absence, he's going to play number 9 quite a lot. And when Šeško's back, it's likely those other players will have gone to AFCON. And therefore, there's minutes in the number 10 position for Cunha. Now, I still don't see Cunha as this absolute sure thing to play 90 minutes week in, week out. But his minutes have to be pretty good now. Because the only scenario with Šeško out where Cunha doesn't play is if Mainoo plays in midfield when he's fully fit and Bruno plays 10 along with Mount and then Mbeumo plays up front. Or Bruno and Mbeumo play 10 and Mount plays up front or something like that. Or Bruno continues playing central midfield, Mbeumo and Mount play 10 and then Xerxes plays up front. But that means someone like Xerxes all of a sudden getting really good minutes. I just don't see it. Like Cunha could still be subbed early, but surely he starts the majority of games now. And then obviously once Mbeumo or Ahmad go to AFCON, there's less competition for those number 10 spots. So if you can afford Mbeumo, I would 100% buy him over Cunha. But if money's tight, I don't hate Cunha as a option. And I think he's quite a good long-term pick as long as he continues playing. Like I'm pretty sure if I sell Semenyo, I'll buy Cunha before I buy Gakpo. I'm just a bit more confident in his minutes. If they play the same minutes, by the way, Gakpo's definitely better, but I'm looking at Cunha. Anyway, that's Man United. Quite an interesting bombshell about AFCON, but I don't see it happening. Maybe they go in game week 16. Maybe that happens, but I suspect the majority of players will just miss game week 17 onwards, like in Jai, Sarr, Mbeumo, Salah, etc. Let's see. We'll continue to find out about this, by the way. Managers will continue getting asked about it. Palace, all players are fit. Gay started training on Wednesday, so presumably he'll be straight into the 11 if you own him. Nketiah is back in the squad. That might have some impact on Mateta's minutes, but he's still going to continue to start basically every game. On Mateta, Glazer said he came back with a minor knee issue after playing with France, but trained with no issue, so he's also fit. So nothing to really worry about there. And then for Leeds, nobody came back injured. Everyone's available. That presumably includes Calvert-Lewin. So if you've got him and you wanted to play him this week, he should be okay. Will he get you any points? We'll have to wait and see, but he should start at least. So quite a few benching headaches this week, mostly because so many people have got defenders with good fixtures. They're not quite sure what to do with. So let's go through it. At the top, I've gone for Thiago. It's very difficult to put a penalty taker too far down the list. And then in second place, I've got Minte against Brentford at home. There is a small part of me that thinks back the home fixture and back Brighton over Brentford and put Minte ahead. But I think if I actually had to make that decision, I'd probably play the penalty taker. That being said, I have put in Jai in third place against Man United away. Again, I mean, it's such a close call, which is why people are asking me about it. Is Man United away that much tougher than Brighton away? I don't know. As I talk about this and get my thoughts out, I'm actually thinking maybe Njai should be ahead of Minte as well. I think Thiago definitely, then Minte, then Njai. Flip those 2 and 3 positions around if you want to. Then Timber against Spurs at home. We know Gabriel is going to be out, so that is going to hurt the Arsenal defence a little bit, but not enough that it would make me put Timber too far down. He's still pretty attacking. I still suspect that Arsenal defence will be fine without Gabriel. There's every chance of a clean sheet in this game, and he could pop up with an attack and return as well. Then Reece James against Burnley away. He should be absolutely fine. I would expect him to start. I probably wouldn't buy him because you're never going to be 100% sure he's going to continue starting week in, week out. But if you've got him, I'd play him. Then Senesi ahead of Anderson. They're both really good picks, but I think right now West Ham at home is a better fixture than Sunderland at home. So that puts Senesi just ahead. Then I've got Doku against Newcastle away. Now, it's one of those things that if I had Doku, would I really have him this far down the list? But I don't have Doku for this exact reason. I'm not 100% sure he'll start. And even if he does, there's early sub potential. And he's a player that's more likely to get you an assist than a goal anyway. So I think it's fair to have Doku this far down. It wouldn't be a massive shock if he didn't start. He probably will, by the way. He was very, very good against Liverpool. He'll cause Newcastle plenty of problems. But even if he does start, he doesn't often make it past 75 minutes. Not recently, anyway. So I think you can make a case having that far down. Honestly, I almost put Chalobah ahead of Doku as well. But I thought I had to have some defenders below him. So Chalobah against Burnley away. Then Alderete against Fulham away. He should play. There's no issues there. And he's good for DEFCONs, but it's an away game. There's plenty of other players on this list that are better. So let's get into some of your questions. And this is the time of the year where I have to turn into a bit of a weatherman. So what are your thoughts on the potential postponement of Burnley versus Chelsea? Now, to be honest, there's hardly any noise about this whatsoever. So I wasn't going to cover it, but there were multiple people that asked me about it. Basically, from what I can see, this is stemmed from one tweet where apparently an ex-referee has info that the Premier Leagues have plans in place regarding a potential postponement of Burnley versus Chelsea. It's not going to happen. I don't see anyone else worried about this whatsoever, and the weather forecast looks fine to me. Like, I've taken this from the BBC website. I'm sure there's other great weather websites out there. And basically, for Burnley, sunny intervals and light winds. That's the forecast for today. Highs of 4 degrees, lows of 2 degrees. You can see there's hardly any rain until later this evening, going into the early hours of the morning, but it doesn't ever get to freezing or anything like that. There doesn't seem to be any snow. And if you go into tomorrow, onto Saturday itself, it's highs of 7, lows of 3. So around the match being played, it's an early kickoff, 12:30. You're looking at like a bit of rain, 6-7 degrees. Like, what's the issue? Light rain and a moderate breeze. Why is a game going to get called off for that? So, like I said, I only really covered it because so many people asked me about it. Not an issue. If you've got Enzo Fernandez or Joao Pedro, or even if you're playing Esteve for some reason, you're probably fine. So what are your thoughts on Nico O'Reilly as a Gabriel replacement? If I'm honest, I can't get that excited about it. I know why people are looking at him. He's only 5 million. The long-term Man City fixtures are pretty good. His main competition for left-back is Aït-Nouri. He'll eventually go to African Cup of Nations. O'Reilly's picking up some really nice positions. He often gets into the box, plenty of shots, etc. But it's a Man City player. And what did we learn from the team news earlier? Everyone is fit apart from Rodri and Kovacic. That means you've got O'Reilly, Aït-Nouri, Vardio, and Ake that can all play left-back. Now, I know what argument will come back to me. O'Reilly's playing so well, why would Pep take him out of the team? Great question. Why does Pep always take players out of the team at some point, no matter how well they're playing? He just does. They've got lots of matches coming up. 13, 14, 15 is weekend, midweek, weekend, Champions League matches, etc. O'Reilly's not going to start all those games. Now, it could be the perfect scenario where he plays all the Premier League games, doesn't play any in Europe, but you've still got the problem in game week 14 where it's a midweek fixture. Also, I'm not really sure why there's all this excitement to buy him this week when it's Newcastle away. And I know Newcastle have had a couple of bad results, but Newcastle away is not a good fixture, in my opinion. But okay, if you've got a 5 million attacking defender, it's not awful either. I don't necessarily see a clean sheet this week. I'd prefer to pick him up in game week 13. And on the African Cup of Nations thing, that's not until game week 17. So you've got 5 game weeks before Aït-Nouri goes where he could get minutes. And like, he is going to get minutes. It's just about which competition that happens in. So look, in seasons gone past, you'd maybe look at it as a bit of a good punt for 5 million. But we're in a season where we've got defensive contributions. You can get players that, even in a bad fixture, can go and get you 3 or 4 points. So O'Reilly's got to play a lot and get a bunch of attacking returns to kind of make up for that. It's boring. I wish I could sit here and get more excited about players like this. There was a comment on a video the other day. You only talk about which players are nailed or not. That's the game. All you need is good players with good fixtures that are going to play. And so whether or not they're going to play is a huge topic of discussion in FPL. And because I can't guarantee it with O'Reilly, I can't get excited about it. Like, would you be shocked if O'Reilly starts Leeds and then Aït-Nouri starts Fulham? I mean, I wouldn't be. And then as soon as it happens, you've got that constant headache of will O'Reilly start the next game? Will he start the next game, etc. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't like it, but I understand why people are going there, and I wish you luck if you do, because this is the kind of exciting pick I wish I could go for. It's just not me anymore. So is Matty Cash a good replacement for Gabriel? If not, who are the best options under 5 million? I'm not the biggest fan of Matty Cash being brought in right now. He's only 4.6 million, so he is benchable, right? He's not at a price where you feel like you've got to play him every week. But I feel like it's a 2-game week move. Leeds away and Wolves at home. And then after that, it's pretty horrible. Like, it's Brighton away in 14. I could see Brighton scoring. Arsenal at home in 15 is not great whatsoever. Then you've got West Ham away in 16, which is okay. Then it's Man United at home in 17. And the problem is the fixtures don't get better after that. They get worse. Like, it's Chelsea away in 18 and Arsenal away in 19. Like, once you're past the Wolves game, I think game week 14 to 19 is just pretty horrible for Villa. Like, after that, it's okay, but we can come back to it in game week 20. So personally, I wouldn't go there. In terms of cheap options, like if you're looking like under 5, like in the question, I think someone like, Senesi I think is 5 dead on, right? So if you can afford Senesi, he would still be good. If not, you've got someone like Truffert at Bournemouth, very playable in the next few. So West Ham at home, Sunderland away, Everton at home. Wouldn't mind playing him in any of those. 15 and 16 a bit tougher. Chelsea at home, Man United away. Then it's Burnley at home in 17. So he might not be a bad option. I also don't mind Anderson still, even though Fulham haven't really performed that well so far this season. Sunderland at home in 12. And then it's Spurs away, City at home, which is not great. But 15 to 18, you could kind of play him in any of those fixtures, especially when you take into account defensive contributions, etc. Like Palace at home in 15, Burnley away, Forest at home, West Ham away. I just think he's a bit more playable than someone like Matty Cash. So Senesi, Truffert, Anderson would probably be where I'd look at. I also would not rule out Richards. I just wouldn't rule out Richards. Wolves away, good. If you have to play him against Man United at home, not awful. Bearing in mind, Cash also has that same fixture in the next 6. Burnley away is also not bad. Fulham away, City at home, Leeds away is a bit tougher. But overall, I just think they've got way more fixtures you would want to play them in from now into like game week 20 than someone like Cash. And also Richards is not bad for defensive contributions. Cash has not been terrible from an attacking point of view, and his numbers are okay, but I don't think it's enough to go against a DEFCON player like Senesi, Richards or Anderson. Or if you want to go for someone else who's also slightly attacking, you've got Truffert with better fixtures. So that's kind of where I would be looking under 5 million. So what are your thoughts on free hit 15? Liverpool, Man City, Man United and Newcastle all have very good fixtures that week, which is absolutely true. They do. So Man United have Wolves away, Liverpool have Leeds away, Newcastle have Burnley at home, and Man City have Sunderland at home. So in game week 15, you will be able to make a very good looking free hit side. And as I've said for many weeks now, there isn't a perfect week to free hit in the first half of the season because we don't have blanks and doubles to play around with. All you're doing is changing up to 15 single game week players for another set of single game week players. So if game week 15 works for you, that is what you should do. From what I can see, there is not a perfect week to use it. I'm sure, in hindsight, there will be a week that absolutely smashes it compared to the rest, but it's difficult to predict what week that is right now. So if you've seen a game week you think works for your team, that is what you should do. The other thing to consider is it's not just about how many points your free hit team will score. It's about a combination of points over 38 weeks. So let me try and explain what I mean by that. I'm looking at game weeks 13 or 16 to free hit. Now, if I showed you the 2 drafts I'm looking at, I'm pretty sure that most of you would agree the game week 16 free hit team will score more points than the game week 13 one. That being said, I'm considering free hitting in 13. Because when I look at my non-free hit teams in 13 and 16, I think my game week 13 one is worse. Now, final thoughts is not the kind of video to go into this in great detail, but essentially, hopefully you're following along with this, I think my free hit 13 plus my normal team in 16 will outscore my normal team in 13 plus a free hit in 16. Does that make sense? I think I'll get more points by free hitting out my normal team in 13. So the reason I mention that is, yes, the free hit team in 15 will look really good. But let's say you get to 15, you've already got Haaland from Man City, and you want to add Phil Foden. Well, Foden's got Let me just bring up Man City's fixtures here. He's obviously got that Sunderland at home game in 15. Now, if you've decided he's a great long-term hold, well, maybe you free hit in 16 because Foden's not quite so good against Palace away, and then he's got West Ham at home in 17. So although the free hit draft in 15 will look really nice, if you want multiple players from the teams you've mentioned over the long term, it might be better to free hit in a week where they're not so good. So Man United, for example, you're absolutely right. They've got a really good fixture in game week 15, Wolves away. They also have a really good one in game week 14. So I've got Fernandes. I might try and add Cunha or Mbeumo. I want them for 14 and 15, and even 16 is not that bad. So again, when's their worst fixture over the next 5 weeks? It's probably game week 13. So you need to, it's not just about which free hit week will look the best. It's also about which players you want long term. So another team to think about as well, and this is probably not like a massive consideration for people, but let's say you're looking at Brighton players. So they've got Brentford at home, Forest away, Villa at home, West Ham at home, next 4. So that West Ham game's in 15. They've got a really bad fixture in 16, which is Liverpool away. Then they've got Sunderland at home in 17. So when we get to game week 15, and most people will want to use up all their transfers before they get topped up in game week 16 to 5, you might be looking at bringing in Brighton players or Man City players. You might already have a few Liverpool or Man United, and actually maybe game week 16 is better for you. So I hopefully, like I said, this is not the greatest video when I'm just chatting about it and I don't have loads of graphics to kind of explain. But basically, free hit 15 is absolutely fine. Just keep in mind, it's about the combination of points over a few weeks. So you need to look at your team in like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, etc. and then decide which week looks worse. And that might be the best free hit team, even if that free hit draft doesn't look as good as one in another week. Hopefully that makes sense. Maybe I'll try and cover it next week in a bit more detail with a few different graphics to explain what I mean. But essentially, short answer is free hit 15 is really good. I'm probably not going to go with it. So with the 5 free transfer top up in game week 16 coming up, should we still be cautious on using transfers up until then with all the injuries and suspensions going around? I have 3 free transfers for this week, and apart from having to sell Gabriel, I'm happy to roll my other transfers. The way that I'm playing it is to be slightly less cautious compared to normal, but not being overly aggressive either. Now, you can play it however you want. If you want to make lots of aggressive short-term moves because you know you've got transfers to burn before game week 16, that's absolutely fine. It's probably not the way I'm going to play it. So what I mean by slightly less cautious is, let's use Semenyo as an example. If there was no free hit to play and there was no top-up to 5 free transfers in game week 16, I'm pretty sure I would definitely be keeping Semenyo. Because there's every chance he plays against West Ham, then it's Sunderland away, Everton at home, and when he's fit and available, he plays 90 minutes pretty much every game, and they've got Burnley at home in 17. So although they've got Chelsea and Man United before that, overall the fixture run from now until 17 is pretty nice. I've not got a bunch of transfers to use necessarily. I want to keep hold of him. But that's obviously not how it's playing out this season. I've got a free hit I'm probably going to use in 13, so that week doesn't matter. And okay, it's Everton at home after that, but then it's Chelsea and Man United. So I'm not as worried. And I don't need to worry so much about having him for that Burnley game because I've got 5 free transfers coming up. I can always bring him back in to then sell him again later. So that's what I mean by slightly less cautious. I think in general, I'm still trying to make good long-term moves. So let's take, I mean, this is a bit of an extreme example, but let's say someone was looking at Doku or Mbeumo. You could make the argument, well, Doku, if it goes wrong, I'll just use a transfer and get rid of him. I'd still much prefer to go for Mbeumo because other stuff will happen. There will be injuries we're not yet seeing. There will be suspensions that we haven't got to yet over the next few weeks. So I still think where possible, make good long-term moves. And also, my strategy is not to blow all those transfers in game week 16 straight away. Like if I make 0 short-term moves between now and game week 15, all I will do with my spare transfers in 15, if I have any, is to make long-term moves so that I don't have to blow those game week 16 transfers straight away. Because there will be other stuff that crops up later where it'll be more important to have 4 or 5 transfers stacked up. And there'll be blanks and doubles eventually. And I'm not saying I'm going to hold 5 free transfers right through to the first blank or the first double, but it'd be nice to have as many as possible because there will be stuff that crops up. So just as a really quick example of something I've looked at, Senesi. Now, I heard on an FPL video I was watching the other day, someone called him a season-long hold. I might sell him in game week 15. Because if you look at game week... Now, I do have some money held in him, so I'll have to consider that. But if you look at game week 15 to 20, Chelsea at home, Man United away, Burnley at home good, Brentford away okay-ish, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home. It's not a great fixture run. So if I get to game week 15, rather than holding for the long term, I might make a move to a Brentford defender who've got Leeds at home in 16 and then Wolves away in 17. So the idea would be I've got a spare transfer, nothing else to use it on. I get rid of Senesi, who I'm not going to play in 15 anyway, for Vandenberg or Collins from Brentford, ready for their good game week 16 fixture. Then I get to game week 16 with 5 free transfers, and if I've got nothing else to do, maybe I make another short-term move. And then maybe in 17, if I've got nothing to do, I bring Senesi back only to sell him again. That's the kind of thing I'm looking at. So essentially, personally, I'm being slightly less cautious, but still making long-term moves. And when I get to game week 15, I won't probably make a bunch of short-term moves for game week 15. I'll make longer-term moves so that I don't have to blow all those transfers straight away. It's boring. I hear you. You can screaming it through the TV, the computer, the phone, leaving a comment. That's so boring. Make lots of short-term moves. I will, but I want to make them from 16 onwards when I've got those 5 moves. And I can just take it week by week. Because all of it, like if I make loads of plans for 15, 16, 17, I'm going to make this short-term move, that short-term. As soon as I get an injury, that all goes out the window anyway. So that's my strategy. To continue being quite boring, but maybe slightly less boring, although I still don't know if I'm going to sell Semenyo this week. So this is a really good follow-on question from the top-up one. Is Joao Pedro a hold or sell on wildcard 12? Now, if there was no top-up coming in game week 16, I would say he's pretty much a sell, because Burnley away is good, but do you want to use a transfer straight away to get rid of him for Arsenal at home? Probably not. And the fixtures afterwards for Chelsea are not that great. Like Leeds away is fine, then it's Bournemouth away, Everton at home, Newcastle away. So there's some okay fixtures in that run, but as a whole, it's not great once you get past Burnley. So initial instinct is to say no, sell him. But let's say you're free hit 13 and you've got 2 transfers already saved up on your wildcard and you're getting another 5 in 16. What's the harm in going Joao Pedro for Burnley away, free hit 13 and get rid of him for Arsenal, then decide what to do against Leeds? Maybe you keep him for one more week, then maybe you sell him in 15 to get rid of any transfers you've got saved up. So this is really going to depend on your preferences, how many moves you've already got planned, etc. But if you're making 14 really solid long-term picks, so you want to go for one punt on Joao Pedro to hold him for one more week to then sell him later because you've got loads of transfers coming, it's fine if that's how you want to play it. So should I bench boost after the game week 16 top-up? My general feeling with bench boost is play it as soon as you can. So if you've got a good bench over the next kind of 2-3 game weeks, just get it used. It's highly unlikely there's going to be a week later on that's miles better. So if you have a good bench soon, use it. If not, I would say probably yes, stop worrying about it right now and wait until you've got those 5 free transfers and see what crops up. So take Bournemouth, for example. Game week 17, they got Burnley at home. So let's say you get to 17 with 4 or 5 free transfers and you're a couple of moves away from having a good free hit team. Bring in a couple of Bournemouth players for 1 week only and then maybe sell them straight away. Senesi, Truefair, maybe even someone like Tavernier, if he's getting good minutes at that point, is a cheap way into that Bournemouth attack that you can easily move one of your other midfielders from. Maybe Kluivert's back, maybe you go back to Semenyo, whatever it is. It's not just them, by the way. They're not the only team in game week 17 with a good fixture. Like Man City, let's say Nico O'Reilly just continuing to play for 5.1 million. You bring him in for the West Ham game. Brighton have got Sunderland at home. You could go for Van Heck at 4.4 million. Like most people are going to always be quite close to a good bench. You may only need 1 or 2 moves to change it. So that's how I'm seeing it right now. If you've got a good bench soon, just get it used. Get rid of that headache. If not, wait till the top up. And then in one of the weeks after it, you should be able to make a fairly good bench. And you've got to get it used by 19 anyway. So if the 5 free transfers don't force you into it, nothing's ever gonna force you into it. So let me run through some thoughts about my own team ahead of tomorrow's game week 12 deadline. I will try and do this as quickly as possible, but I always say that and it ends up being one of the longest segments of this video. And the reason I want to do it quickly is because honestly, I'm not quite sure what I want to do and I don't want to waste too much of your time. Basically, I've got 2 free transfers, 0.3 million in the bank. Most of my first 11 is fine, apart from Gabriel, who's out and will be red flagged shortly, and then Semenyo, who's a doubt. Everything else looks okay. So Raya in goal, then I've got Lacroix, Wolves away, Anderson, Sunderland at home, Senesi, West Ham at home, Van Dijk, Forest at home in my back line. Saka, currently my captain. I think that will stick. It will be difficult to not switch it to Haaland in the deadline stream tomorrow. I'm not promising that I won't, but as it stands, I'm I don't know, I'm like 80, 90% sure that I will go Saka. Fernandes, Everton at home, Mateta, Wolves away, and then Harden himself against Newcastle away. Now, last week was quite difficult. Do I go for Saka and roller transfer? Do I go for Mbermo and use all three? This week feels harder because we don't have concrete info about Semenyo. Like, if he was definitely fine, I would keep him. If he was definitely out, I would sell him. But we're in that limbo of not knowing whether he's going to play or not. And my bench is not that good. Paquetá suspended. Guiu for Chelsea just doesn't start. And then Dewsbury Hall against Man United away. Now, if this was a normal period of the season where we weren't being topped up to 5 transfers, I had no free hit to use, I would probably keep Semenyo and just run the risk that Dewsbury Hall has to play if he misses out. But because we have all these transfers coming up and because I'm probably going to free hit in 13, I don't know whether I should keep him. So basically, it's what I said on the team selection video yesterday. I'm pretty sure at some point over the next 3 to 4 weeks, Paquetá will be Minte, because in my opinion, there's not really a huge amount of better options 6 million or below. I'm not going to buy Caicedo, we know that. And most of the options below him are kind of DEFCON players. I don't really want to add another one I don't want to add like Elliot Anderson from Forest when I've also got Dewsbury Hall. Just feels too cheap in midfield. So Minte in for Paquetá, Semenyo to Cunha, which doesn't have to happen, but I do think once you start getting to kind of game weeks 15, 16, the fixtures for Bournemouth do turn a little bit, and I could always get Semenyo back for 17 with the not unlimited, but the lots of transfers we will have. So I think that Cunha move will happen. It's just whether it happens this week. And then Gabriel to an Arsenal defender, and I think my preference is probably Timber. So that's what I'm thinking. Now, I could keep Semenyo and do Gabriel to a cheap defender, like True Fair. This is kind of what I spoke about yesterday. And then then leave Semenyo and then do Paquetá to Cunha instead. So that is a possibility, but I know I'm going to want that Arsenal defender sooner rather than later. And it just uses an extra transfer if I delay that move until later on. So I'm pretty sure, fairly sure, I'm going to do Gabriel to Timber. The only reason I might go Saliba is to save a bit of money, which might come in useful later on. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the Timber move. And if I do that, I'd then be 5-3-2 with Semenyo in midfield. It's just whether I sell Semenyo as well. Or I could keep Semenyo. Actually, I think it's... I don't know, I need to think about this. I think I'd be surprised if I roll a transfer this week. Let me just say that. Because what I could do is... Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Maybe I did think about it. My head's just all over the place. I could do Gabriel to Timber and then get Minte for Paquetá, use 2 free transfers, keep Semenyo, play Minte over Anderson or Lacroix or something. I don't know which one. I'm not going to get into that right now. Basically, bench one of my defenders, play 4-4-2, and if Semenyo misses out, then I've got one of the defenders to come on. The only issue with that strategy is what if Semenyo makes a cameo appearance off the bench? That would be annoying. It really would. Even though I agree with people that he's either going to start and play close to 90 or just not play at all as the most likely scenarios, there is a chance he cameos. But I could make those moves, Timber and Minte, play Semenyo, and if he does miss out, just make the decision on Cunha later on. That's the other thing with Cunha is I'm pretty confident in him as a pick, but I'm not as confident as I am with Mbermo. So is there a major issue if I delay the Cunha move? Because essentially I'm going to free hit in 13 and I won't have him then anyway. So the only real issue with not getting him this week is if his price skyrockets, but that seems super unlikely. Like if you look at midfielders and transfers in, I bet Cunha's like nowhere near the top. Like Cunha, 30,000 transfers in, less than Cherky, less than Casemiro, Neto, Esteval, Buendia, Ahmad, Rodgers. Like his price is not going to skyrocket. And I've got 0.4 million in the bank. So I've got 0.2 million leeway on the Semenyo to Cunha move. And do you know what? I don't hate Semenyo to Cunha in 14. Because Semenyo's got Everton at home, which is good, but Cunha's got West Ham at home. And then it's Wolves away, which is better than what Semenyo has. Then he's better in 16 as well. But it does give me a couple of games just to make sure that Cunha's going to get good minutes at that number 9 and that he's not going to throw Mount up front or Xerxes or something like that. So I think that's roughly where I'm going to leave it. I would be surprised if I don't use both my transfers I'm just not entirely sure what I'm going to use them on. Like, I could leave. I quite like that, though. I quite like that. Play 4-4-2 and just have the bench insurance from one of the defenders. It's just that if Semenyo, it's really just an insurance play, because if Semenyo plays, essentially I'm using a second transfer to bench one of my defenders who are all good, which feels wrong, but maybe it's worth it for the insurance on Semenyo. So Timber and Minte is quite nice, or I just go brave. I get Timber in now, which is not the brave move, by the way, and just do Semenyo to Cunha right now. Not like right this second recording the video, but this week. And just take the risk that Semenyo makes a cameo or just doesn't play at all. And then do Paquetá to Minte later on. I think the one thing on my mind with this Paquetá move, I just don't see how it's anyone else apart from Minte because of the money I've got to spend. It's not like all of a sudden I'm going to have an extra million to go for Szoboszlai after his suspension or something like that. And if he's playing right back, I don't really want him anyway. Yeah, I think the move, the move I'm most likely to make is Timber and Minte and keep Semenyo because I like him this week. But Cunha is such a differential over Mbeumo. Like, Mbeumo is the better pick, but sometimes the better pick doesn't win out. Like, could Cunha outscore Mbeumo? Of course he's capable of doing that, and that would be huge. Especially ahead of like AFCON and stuff like that. Yeah, the most sensible move, I think, is to do Paquetá, Gabriel to Timber Minte and just have the insurance for Semenyo and then just do the Semenyo move later on. But then, I don't know, then getting Cunha in, I mean, I've still got that. It doesn't matter about Paquetá because the rest of the players are going to play. Like, basically, do I prefer Timber, Cunha, or do I prefer... No, I'm just going around in circles now. I'm probably going to do Timber and Minte in and just keep Semenyo. The ownership, like the fact that Kluivert's out as well, the ownership could hurt, but then there's also reasons to take him on. I'm going to use I'm probably going to go for Timber. Just really quickly on Timber, am I worried about him missing game week 14? Yes. But he's just more exciting than Saliba. And I think he is clearly first choice. There is zero doubt about that. So he's going to start the majority of games. It's not like I'm buying a Nico O'Reilly. It's not the same level of worry. It's just slightly more worry than a Saliba, I think. But Saliba will give me more money, more insurance for that move later on. Timber and Minte, I think, is the move. Timber and Minte. Who do I bench, though? Let's just pretend that Paquetá's in the team. But Lacroix is my gut feeling because it's Wolves away rather than 2 home games. Maybe it should be Anderson. But that feels wrong, doesn't it? Why did we not get a better update about Semenyo? Anyway, Timber, Minte, that was super long as expected. If you've happened to have watched the whole video, fair play to you. If you found it useful in even like a minor way, make sure to give it a like. Hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you 9 AM Saturday morning UK time for the deadline stream. I'll see you then.